Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu 5 and it's time to review the Emerson Elvia designed by Ed Calderon, if I pronounced that correctly. I'm currently learning Spanish, but my tongue does not agree with the language. I think it has a little bit to do with my speech impediment and a little bit to do with dyslexia. But here is the knife. This is the Elvia, named after Ed Calderon, a mom. And apparently she carried a fruit knife, kind of like the Victorinox fruit knife, and that was her EDC. And she used it for everything. So that was her self-defense knife, that was her EDC knife. So Ed was paying homage to her and that knife that he remembered, but he gave it a modern twist, optimized it for self-defense purposes in some respects, and he's been having the Elvia made by different companies and producers like Copus. Who else was making it? I see this knife all over the place, made by different people and different variants of it. But Emerson is the company that I kind of gravitate towards when it comes to expensive tactical knives. And I started an Emerson collection. And when I saw that Ed was having a collaboration with Ernest Emerson, I was like, well, I got to have this knife. And so I didn't want to review this until I did my meat cut test, which you saw, or hopefully saw in my last video, of me testing this knife as a tactical self-defense knife. And if you watch that video, you know that it is very, very effective. It punches way above its weight class as a tactical knife, and believe it or not, as an EDC knife, it punches way above its weight class as well. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But I want to go over the stats and specifications. The Libre lock is a titanium Libre lock. The steel is 154 cms. Mine is the black coated. I'm looking at the stats on the stonewash finish. Stonewash finished one is $264.95. I can't remember how much I paid for the black one. I wanted the stonewash finish, but on the last release they just had the black ones, and they cost a good bit more. I remember my wallet hating me after paying for it, along with my bank account. But this has a conventional grind with chisel edge. The overall length is 7.2 inches. The blade length is 2.7 inches. And the blade thickness is not as important, but I'll go ahead and tell you since it's here, is 0.125 inches. And the rock weld hardness is between 57 and 59. For those of you who don't know, Ernie backs the heat treat up on his knives. And I have personal experience why this is a good thing. It's not going to have the best edge retention compared to the same steel produced like by Spiralco or Benchmade, but it's not going to have the same edge retention as those knives with the same steel, but it's going to be a lot tougher. Now, let's see, I don't have my Persian nearby. I dropped this paramilitary and it took a good bit of the tip off, and my brother had to regrind it. Dropped the Emerson Persian, and the Emerson Persian is basically the wickedest tip on a knife you can get. You know, in my opinion, it's the point is the point of the knife. It does slash very well, but its point thrusting capability is, you know, crazy. So anytime you drop that knife on its point, you're going to be pretty sad and upset with yourself. But it just kind of laid the tip over to the side a little bit, and using a sharpening stone, we were able to just bend it back, and the tip is almost undamaged. You know, we could lay it back, and it was pretty much a perfect point after the repair was made. You couldn't tell that it was a repaired tip. And so I think that speaks volumes to the toughness of Emerson knives as compared to the paramilitary, that to me is more optimal for edge retention and utility tasks. But anyways, this knife was kind of created with the Libre fighting system in mind, the Libre Guild. I kind of misspoke in my cut test video. I called it Libre Fighting Systems. That's something I'm used to calling martial arts as fighting systems. But this is the Initiation Guild, or the Libre Knife Fighting Guild, and this is the Initiation Package. And after I master this package of information, I'll go to the Journeyman's. But yeah, they call it the Libre Knife Fighting Guild. They do a lot of what they call Reaper or Scythe Grip. Call it Scythe Grip. You can call it Reverse Edge, Reverse Grip, Reverse Edge, which would refer to the edge being pointing towards you. You can call it Mantis Grip, Macaw Grip. There's a lot of different names, but basically you're holding the knife upside down with the edge facing you. And this is a little bit counterintuitive for self-defense with the knife, but we showed in my video that slashing like this doesn't cut as deeply, and it has a little bit to do with how the blade is canted. But when you have a point-driven cut, it cuts significantly deeper than a upswept edge or a knife that is held conventionally. It cuts just really deep, and it's very nasty, and it really laid that meat open. And so I am becoming more and more of a fan of this Libre knife fighting system after playing with it, after experimenting with it. The whole point of me kind of stepping away from the big knife fighting is because, one, I think little knives are a little bit more defendable in court. Two, in close quarters, like really close quarters, I think these can be a little bit cumbersome. And also, it seems that if you're in grappling range, this would also be cumbersome as well. And also, if you're in different states, I live in Texas. I can carry a Bowie knife. I can carry, a sword. I can carry a tomahawk, brass knuckles. I can carry a sap. I can carry just about anything I want, with the exception of armor-piercing rounds. I think those are still illegal to carry. But I can carry just about any melee weapon that I want. And but if I go to, let's just say, Louisiana, I don't know the laws there specifically, but I know they have more restrictions than Texas. If I go to a state like Colorado, that even in Colorado, the Endura is illegal in size. So I wanted a knife that I can travel with to many different states that would be usable and legal, but also very effective as a self-defense knife. And in this case, it was a good EDC knife. I mean, I use this knife from the day that I got it up until now as an EDC knife. I did more utility tasks than I did meat cut testing. And some cool things. First off, the knife is comfortable in this edge in point up grip, and that makes it good for reaching around and snagging a plastic strap that might be far away from you and pulling and cutting. You could also probably use this in a self-defense situation if you're using the kind of like the ditch pick method. You can kind of get in there. But just coming around and reaching, snagging and pulling, it cuts very well, cuts envelopes very well, it cuts weed needle string very well. Something I do with just about every single knife I get is I get weed needle string, I put a little bit of slack in it, and then I put the knife right there and try to cut through it without looping it over the blade, just trying to bite into it and cut it without having tension on it. And this knife does that. So awesome EDC knife. Now don't get confused, it's not the end-all EDC knife. Obviously, if you have something more conventional, you have the ability to use it kind of on a cutting board to do food prep. And this one's really good at it. But this knife, you can't really use it on a cutting board, but it's interesting on a box. I mean, when you rest the I don't know what you'll call this transition, but this G10 tip on a box, the point is resting on the tape. So if you want to break down a box or open a box, but you don't want to penetrate too deeply in the box, possibly cutting the content, just place it like that and then pull back, and it'll open up that box without putting too much blade in there. So awesome knife. Now let's talk about the bad. I alluded to the point you can't use it really on a cutting board effectively for food prep, but there was one thing that really irritates me about this knife, and it's almost embarrassing that they left it off, and I have my own theories why they left it off, and that is no wave. For a knife that is meant to be held in reverse grip, edge in, picaw grip, mantis grip, whatever you want to call it, it'd be very advantageous to be able to draw it out in reverse grip and be able to get to work. So this knife is configured for a standard carry. You're going to pull the knife out like this, and then you have an awkward not grip, like foil grip naturally, and you can do stuff in the foil grip. Feels a lot more comfortable in the hammer grip with the edge in. You can do a stab to the neck and stuff and still kind of use it, but it's meant to be held in reverse grip, edge in, picaw grip, and it's just a weird transition to open this knife and get back like that as quickly as possible under stress. And that's the problem. When you're under stress, this becomes a tricky maneuver. I did see online that there are some people making aftermarket thumb disc with the wave feature. I plan on getting one of those if I can track one down. I think it is absolutely necessary for this knife to have a wave. I have a feeling the next time they do a run of these, it's going to have the wave. And I can see myself buying one if they remake it with the wave, because I like the knife so much. But it's like, dude, this is a Libre inspired knife, or a knife designed for Libre, and you can't just draw it out like the Picaw knife from Spyderco. And to me, if you can draw it in that method that you draw the Picaw knife in Spyderco, it would be absolutely perfect. Like 10, 10, 10, 10, perfect score. But that's not the case. But I still love this knife. I still carry it a lot, even though I did all of my testing with it. And I plan on continuing to carry it in certain situations, summertime, going out of state. To me, this is a good warm weather knife. If I want something that's a cold weather knife, I'll probably carry the Persian, or something a little bit bigger, maybe like the Otonashino Ken, or XL Espada, yeah. But in warm weather, different states, trying to keep the close quarters mindset, keep the close quarters concept in mind. A lot of people don't realize when I go to Buffalo Wild Wings, there's so many tables and chairs around, you don't really have the benefit of footwork to do long distance knife fighting with big knives. So in the context of going to a sports bar late at night, early mornings, to watch a UFC pay-per-view, to me it's necessary to have a smaller knife that I can advance on and use in very tight, confined areas, because I'm not going to be able to maneuver too much for long-range knife fighting. And that's where I'm at. I'm kind of leaning away from bigger knives. I think they're effective, but I think in certain situations the little knife is superior in certain situations, and that's why I want to learn the Libre system. I want to learn how to use small knives. Small knives can be carried almost everywhere, as opposed to big knives only in certain situations. So that's it. I'm a Satsu 5. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'm out.